future NFL power rankings, so projecting the next 3 years for all 32 teams. This is from ESPN. It's scored on 100. Eagles are 1 at 94, Chiefs 293. Bengals are 3 at 91. Ravens and Bills 89.9 are tied for 4th. They ranked the Browns tied for 17th, 79.2. They're tied with the Giants. Overall roster 85, 11th. Quarterback 79, 14th. Coaching 79.3, 20th. Draft 65.7, 29th. Front office 81.3, which is 12th. Reason for hope. Cleveland has built strong all-around roster. Its front office graded out well in the survey. Kevin Stefanski has shown an ability to be a steadying presence. Jim Schwartz should get the defense in shape if Deshaun Watson can recapture his pre-2021 form. Ceiling would be much higher. Reason for concern: when you give a contract to a player like the one Cleveland gave Watson, the return on investment has to be significant, like MVP caliber significant. 6 games last season, Watson, 38.3 QBR, completed 58.2% of his passes, and averaged 6.5 yards per attempt. Stat to know: Denzel Ward allowed 1.7 yards per coverage snap allowed per next-gen snaps, 5th worst among all outside corners with at least 300 coverage snaps. The Denzel Ward stuff is true. He was also in zone coverage, which is a little bit different. And if you're built like he is, that's not something that you're built to do. The whole Watson thing, again, I default back to what we said earlier. It seems like the guys that played the game and coached in the game think he's coming back.
Well, it's still a huge question, though, right? I mean, that's fair. The question, right? I mean, that's just the question. And if he plays like a top 5, top 8 guy, if he can compete with Joe Burrow and Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson, then the Browns are going to be pretty good, right? I mean, that's the assumption I'm working under. If he doesn't, then it's all a disaster, and there's probably people getting fired. So let's assume that he plays pretty well and plays better than he did last year. And I know that's the last thing everybody saw, so I get it. But my assumption is he's going to play significantly better than he did last year. And if he doesn't, they're in trouble. If you look at the rest of it, to me, that ranking, what it shows is Andrew Berry has not drafted particularly well. He's tried to make up for it and probably has to a large extent through free agency and through trades. And that's important. I think the key is eventually you have to draft really well, right? That's the lifeblood of many organizations. But he's figured out a way to round out the roster he inherited without drafting at a really high level. And you know, you talk about Judd Wills, who's a full-time starter but isn't quite where they need him to be. Is Grant Delpit there? They have to cut Winfrey, right? Is David Bell going to turn in anything? Is Anthony Schwartz going to make this team? Right? There's a lot of questions from the draft picks, yet you look at his free agent picks and or free agent signings and the trades, and I think that's why this roster gets so much respect. And whatever the roster was, 11th, that feels about right. It feels like it gives them a chance to compete for the playoffs.
Yeah, I would agree with you. And that's a fair point that you made about questioning Watson. But again, if you look a little bit deeper, you know, didn't play for the first 11 games, new system. You should have expected it. You know, I think my expectation was high and unrealistic when you start to look into what you're asking this guy to do.
No, I think that's a good point. I think I fell into the same boat, Dave, is, well, he's so good he's going to come back. He had, a little bit of preseason. He had training camp. He was able to practice. It's a whole different animal, going out there and playing when you haven't played in whatever it was, 21 months to 700 days. So, yeah, I should have expected more rust. We probably all should have. I probably didn't see enough of that rust knocked off in those final 6 games. Would have liked to seen the last couple of games been hugely better, and I don't know if they were. But there's reason to think he will be better. And it starts with there. It goes to Kevin Stefanski tweaking, probably more than tweaking the offense to fit what Deshaun Watson does well. The additions at tight end and receiver, having your whole offensive line coming back. Like, it's a pretty good situation for Deshaun Watson to be in. And if he doesn't succeed, then you got to blame Deshaun Watson, I think.